Ball. Oh. Hello. How are we doing today, guys? We are actually going to be starting this by saying, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Bull Rush. My name is Mr. Schmooglydorf. I am joined, as always, by Mr. Wolfman on my right, Mr. Warbot on my left. How we doing today, guys?
That was the best opening I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, obviously the best. It wasn't because I forgot to start recording in TeamSpeak or anything.
No, that's definitely what it was.
Shut up, I don't need you.
But good for you. Good for you for recording.
Yeah, I got to spend... Oh, man. I had fun spending I spent the entire morning trying to update the hero builder along with Mike. It was...
Trying.
Shenanigans. Yeah, would you believe that two of the ability names in the most recent patch were not correctly three different upgrade names were not correctly translated into any other languages? I spent the longest time trying to figure out why some of those names were showing up in English when I was in French mode.
Wasn't that because one of the Wu upgrades in French was called Tang Clan?
Which is my favorite thing. And the best part is all of the other languages have completely normal names for it. It's like focused attack or something in like every other language, and the other, like Spanish and German, it's both actually translated as focus attack, and for some reason the French version is just Tang Clan. I mean, so if you're in French, you know, enjoy your Wu-Tang Clan.
Exactly. See, this is how this is how the Motigans get down.
This is why we're rated M for mature audiences only.
I am.
Because we talk about the Wu-Tang Clan?
Sorry, I have to go change some settings then if we're going to be rated M. Jeez.
Oh, boy.
Anyway. No, how are we doing today, though?
I'm feeling alright. I feel like there's a good amount of things to talk about.
There are a super amount of things to talk about,
yes.
Not the least of which being yesterday, the big announcement that came out from Motiga live on a GameSpot stream. Like, okay,
hello.
Whatever. The NDA is finally lifted now, which obviously is the name of our show, Silent No More. Like we have said yesterday in our... That was a very interesting sound there, Mr. Wolfman.
I didn't make any sound.
Your chair definitely did. Yesterday on our lovely Reddit post, we were saying that, you know, we are very delighted and super excited for the fact that this is finally coming about. You know, the three of us at the very least have been sitting around with this game for over a year, since PAX South for Perry, since before PAX South for me and Wolfman. You know, we've been hanging around and dedicating time and effort towards this game, and now we're finally seeing this moment where it's starting to take its first step out of the shadows and starting to bring itself into the general public. And while right now we're not really seeing too much of that, because really all they've done is saying, hey, look, we're just dropping the NDA, period, it's still nice to see.
I kind of want to take issue with that, and I think this is kind of... I don't want to like look a gift horse in the mouth here, because obviously like I'm happy the NDA is coming down. Like I find it kind of amusing that like, you know, I think was it like time? No, like November and December was it like I had like a long tirade about like they should just go early access model, like open up everything and just show off all the flaws and deal with it.
And now they're doing that.
Here we are. So woohoo!
Yeah,
but, it's almost as if they listened to the show.
Hi,
but at the same time, like, but at the same time, I feel like this feels like a horrible time for it, right? Like it feels like there's like no reason for us to drop the NDA now, right? Like, okay,
elaborate?
like we could. I mean, okay, so I think we should have dropped the. My solution is we should have dropped the NDA like 3 months ago, right? Because like we should have just kept it down after PAX. But you know that I can understand the like holy shit, like the game looks bad. Let's the
game looks bad. It feels bad. It has a lot of missing things in it.
Yeah, button everything back up. But it's like.
The cat was out of the bag, you can't put it back in.
Exactly. Like, the game's not in that much of a better state now. Like, we have parties, one new hero, and... Yeah, but I mean, we still have issues. Like, right now on beta, like, Canyon has mysterious invisible floors, and, like, random skill names aren't being translated correctly, and... You know, like, it's not like the game doesn't still have, like... blatantly obvious issues. You know, matches are randomly failing for no particular reason. MMR is still questionable.
But see, I feel like that doesn't really have to... What was that?
Yes.
But I feel like that doesn't really have anything to do with NDA, only because of the fact that this is all stuff that we've known for a while now, regardless of if we were in the beta or
Oh,
not.
sure.
Just because people have like exclaimed about it, you know.
Yeah.
That was a point that was a point that was actually made on that GameSpot live stream. Like, you know, they said that we need to realize, like, everyone that plays this game needs to realize that this is a beta. You know, like,
Yeah.
we've
Oh,
said this
absolutely.
many times. Like, there's going to be problems. There's going to
a
be
lot
issues.
of problems. One
you
of
know,
the things that
are
I
still
see
in the
that's
works.
annoying at the very least, and I mean annoying, I guess, is really the only word you could use to describe this, is that because the Reddit is the first most visible place that people can, you know, go to talk about the game, it is becoming the place where everybody and their whiny uncle's mother decides they want to go ahead and ask for help about their issues. And I'm sorry, there's no other beta game ever in which that is okay, so why do people do that here?
I mean, you obviously haven't visited the Overwatch Reddit, but
That doesn't mean it's okay at the Overwatch
or,
Reddit.
well, it doesn't make it okay. I don't know. I think the weird thing about the NDA drop is this kind of marks. So I feel like these days there are two models of like hyping a game and like building a game's community.
Right.
And like amusingly, we've had like two really good examples of them like in the last month, right? So we had kind of what I feel like Motiga was trying to do with Gigantic last year, which is essentially what XCOM 2 just did, which is we're going to keep it under wraps, we're going to have developer streams that show off exactly what we want to show off
Right.
up until like 2-3 weeks before we release, and then we're going to release it to a specific subset of streamers and YouTubers who are allowed to play the first X levels and not allowed to see X, Y, and Z enemies, and only allowed to play these certain game modes, and then, like, the next week we'll unlock, like, the next 3 levels for a specific set of streamers and slightly more streamers, and, like, eventually we get to release week and everyone is allowed to stream it except for
Literally
those people and
everything,
that
yeah.
people. And, yeah, and it's, like, you know, hyper-controlled and very much, like, we as a studio have a game that we want to show off to you in the way that we are going to,
Go
in a
about
very
doing this.
curated way. It's a
Yeah.
curated package of goods. And I feel like that works for two types of games. Games like XCOM 2 that are coming in with a lot of hype and a
Yeah.
lot of expectation innately, and games that you're worried that, you know, blowing it too early is going to look horrible.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, something like, you know, I'm trying to, I don't even know, like, a good example, but something like Battlefront, like Star Wars
Almost,
Battlefront,
yeah.
was one of those games where it's like, there wasn't a lot of expectation, and they wanted to make sure it got put out on the right foot, and, like, you know, that
That
people
it
didn't
did
get the wrong
something,
impression of what was going on, which I think was the mindset that Motiga was in before. I think what happened was they blew their load in September trying to drop the NDA a little too early. It looked like the game looked bad, and they kind of went into damage control for the next 4 months.
Yeah.
Then they had to lay off all of the people that were running internal
Damage
promotion
control.
and content. Because, like, we lost Thor, we lost Mosquito, we lost pretty much everyone you saw on those Motiga Clash Course streams doesn't work there anymore. Too.
Pretty
Like,
much, yeah.
except for artists. Yeah.
yeah, like, except for, like, the actual, like, devs. Like, pretty much all the people that were creating content specifically for their internal promotional streams, like, had to get let go.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, makes sense. Like, that's, like, if you have to let someone go, like, marketing is not the worst department if you're having to push your release date out 9 months. But I think what we see is, like, we're seeing the transition into we're relying on the community to hype things for us, which is why this announcement got made on GameStop stream and not on a Motiga stream. You know, it's the reason why, you know, they're opening it up to literally everyone to stream the game now is because, like, they're in a position where they're just going to have to go wide open, which is a thing that has worked well. I mean, you look at, like, Darkest Dungeon essentially took that philosophy. It's very similar game style to XCOM, had a bunch of the same streamers. Like, Darkest Dungeon's been full open access since last January.
Yeah.
And people have been streaming it on and off. It built a lot of hype. It's, you know, there was, like, a small community. It wasn't like people played it nonstop for that year. But, like, when the release came out, it was like, yeah, you know that game you saw me play, like, last month, and then, like, 2 months before that, and then, like, 2 months before that. It's finally coming out, and I'm, like, excited about it. And I think that, you know, all things going well, that's what we're going to see now that the NDA's down.
Yeah.
But with the fact that this happened, you said it seems like a weird timing. Does that mean, in your opinion, it's a bad idea? Or, like...
I think it's
'cause-
too late. Like, I get that they wanted to let, you know, coaches and, like, the Approved Streamers program, like, have their week of, you know, being the only people that were allowed to stream. But, like, it feels dirty. Like, it feels like they, you know, they gave their SOP to the people they had to, but, like, now it's like, what? Okay, so,
Yeah,
like,
no.
now everyone can stream, but, like, it doesn't really matter. Like, no one really cares anymore.
No.
Like, there's no big announcement. Like, the patch that came out didn't have a ton. Like, it had stuff that was interesting if you'd been playing for 6 months, but it wasn't like 2 weeks ago when it was like, holy shit, new hero. Like,
Yeah.
everyone wants to stream and show off the cool new stuff, and like, we're coming out of hiding, and like, there's stuff to actually show off. Now it's just like, okay, everyone can stream the game that you've been playing for 2 weeks that like you don't have on the record books. And also just the fact that there was like no real lead up to it. It was just like literally like they started teasing that they were going to announce something yesterday, like 2 hours before the stream.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Like this-
that also
That's
that
another
is something
big
that
thing is
happened.
that with that announcement, it just kind of came out of the blue. So, you know, what we would want to hope for with this sort of an announcement, you know, big name streamers or big name partners coming out and starting to stream the game and hyping up the game and doing things for the game didn't happen because they honestly didn't have the time. There was
Yeah.
absolutely
No one
no
knew it was
lead up to
coming.
this. No one knew it was coming. I can almost assume that nobody was told about it because when we're looking at the Twitter, you know, there are big name people, you know, Josh Hargrove from the Overwatch beta people, you know, he tweeted out yesterday about it saying, hey, look, you know, Gigantic's no NDA, you guys can play it now, watch some streamers. He's a big guy. He's got a large amount of viewers for his own stream, but he can't stream it because he didn't have that lead up. He didn't set aside the time of, okay, hey, I'm going to do this on this day. So, especially for larger streamers who have a schedule of, okay, I'm going to do this on this day, this on this day, this on this day, and they plan
Yeah.
that out a week or two in advance. Now they've got this out there that say they wanted to play Gigantic already. Now they don't have the time to do it because no one told them this was happening.
Yeah, like this feels like this feels mean to say, but like it feels like a situation where somebody was like, "Yeah, we're gonna like drop the NDA for everyone," and then they like forgot to do it, and then like somebody woke up on Tuesday and was like, "Oh shit, we forgot to drop the NDA! Quick, press release."
GameStop! Let's
Do it.
go! Yeah,
And
it,
it's like-
it almost
and, you know,
feels
it's
like they
like-
forgot to
yeah.
do it, but then it happened. Or even more so, like they just woke up in the morning one day and was like, let's drop the NDA. And then someone's
And,
like,
like,
wait,
I-
hold on, maybe there's a better way. Nah, we're just gonna drop the NDA though.
Well, and like from what I've heard from like just being around and like people at PAX South and something, like it feels like this had been in the works for a little bit. Like it felt like there was some amount of internal like, hey, we're getting close to that
Well,
time.
and we kind of knew that, you know, for people at Motiga, they've wanted to drop the NDA for a while. You know, that was the whole issue with what happened at PAX Prime. Was, you know, somebody, I'm not going to say who, Coffee, okay, somebody said, hey, look, screw the NDA, I want to drop it. And then everyone was like, okay, and then they tried, and they were like, okay, maybe that wasn't a good idea. Maybe not.
But
Maybe not,
you know,
though.
when it, I mean, I feel like we don't care because it's something that we've known for a while now
Yeah.
that they were trying to go that far. But like for newer players that are just coming or people that have been kind of out of the community for a while, like it's just like Shmoo said. It's just like, well, wait, now we don't have the time to just be like, oh, let's go ahead and do that because there was no forewarning. It was
There's
just
no
like, it's
forewarning.
there.
And to be
even-
fair, like it's not like there aren't streamers for it. Like if you
Oh,
look
yeah,
at
I
like,
mean,
you know,
right
if you look
now.
at Twitch right now, there's there've been like constantly a couple hundred people watching. It's like 218 right now.
Yeah, 218 right now across,
and
what
it's-
is it,
and
like
it's
30 or
not-
so streamers. It's a lot of people.
It's not even necessarily people that like that we know from the community. It's not like it's Gas Mask and
The
like
Scum,
Shark
Joe
Junk
the
or-
Miz is up here. We don't even know who those
Yeah,
two
I mean,
are.
but it's like it's a
Aradre's
different.
in there. He's part of the community. But, like, you're right, you know. There's a guy who goes by the name of Shoes, Cordy Pop, Shizzable, yeah, it's weird. I saw that and I
like
thought of
it's
Shoe.
it's an odd group
Because he
of
spells
people.
it the same
Not
way.
odd, like that's mean to say, but like it's a diverse group of people, and like I think
Yeah.
that's good for the game in the long run. Is like you've got some
Well,
options.
and
You've
that's
got
the
people
thing.
that are excited that aren't necessarily like Clash Point, Synergy, Warpath, and they're getting views. Like
Yeah.
I know
Well,
back
because-
during PAX South, we were seeing like there was a couple like Smite streamers that were coming over and playing a couple games here and
Yeah.
there, and like people that have established fan bases. I think that's where like Gigantic is eventually going to pick up. Is
Oh yeah, people
know,
who
I-
have those established fan bases. Because
I
if you
wanna
look
see
at
them-
it right now,
Yeah.
the two #1 streamers in Gigantic are people who are not part of the dedicated Gigantic community, Lascum and Joe the Miz.
Or
These
at
two-
least
I don't
people we
even know.
don't recognize.
Yeah, people we don't
They might be
recognize.
someone in game. Given the new Xbox gamer tag migration, who knows who anyone is anymore?
Yeah,
Well, and
but
I'm just going off
that's
their
also
Twitch
true.
names, so.
Yeah.
But
I
like,
mean-
let me go to Lascum's channel. Yeah, he's just a general. He's a Destiny streamer.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
It's a
and
Destiny
I think
streamer. He's playing Gigantic.
if things go well, I think we'll see like bring some partners in, like start, try to dish out keys to people who are actually, because I think once you get on the radar as like, hey, we're an open game that's in beta, there's a decent subset of like popular streamers that just kind of go around trying new games.
Yeah.
Getting on the list for that, you could.
I follow a few of those guys actually.
Yeah, it's just
very
like,
fun
oh, hey,
just
this
to be
game's
like,
coming.
It's
Yeah,
interesting
and
too.
that's how
Also,
I find my games too.
yeah, well, and it's also interesting the number of people that are coming from different games and whatnot that are playing the game as well. Because Joe the Miz, number 2 on there, if you look at what he's played recently, we're looking at Madden, Grand Theft Auto, FIFA's in here, Rocket League. He's a sports player. He plays stuff on Sports Xbox, and now he's coming over and playing, Gigantic. So it's not, we are seeing that sort of kind of melding of different genres and different groups of people that are playing this game. It isn't just, oh, hey, look, people who played MOBAs in the past, or, oh, hey, look, people who've played stuff like Smite, or, hey, look, we have Overwatch players. No, we are getting a lot of people who just like the game for what it is, too.
Yeah.
Or even people that have been around in the community for a while.
Yeah.
Like, I think we're in a good place. Like, I'm pretty... Like,
It just
I
needs to
think
grow
we'll be
a
okay
little bit
going
more.
forward. The question is just... my only worry is just the fact that, like, the way this rolled out... Like, the fact that it happened is good. The way it happened, continues to cement my worries about Motiga as an organization, and like their lack of premeditation, it feels like so many decisions get made without having an actual strategy to
Or
them
just
or
not
any
having
real
as
plan.
good enough of a strategy for how big the decisions may be. This one being the best example, this is a huge decision to go ahead and drop the NDA at this point, and it could have taken, yes, it was in meditation for a while, but the plan that they have released wasn't really that huge, not that we can see so far, and maybe they did go ahead and contact a few bigger name streamers, and those guys said, oh, okay, well, I can maybe fit that into my schedule later, and
I
we might
wouldn't
not
even
see
be
the fruition of
surprised.
this, NDA drop until maybe a week or two down the road. But, you're not wrong to say that it feels as though we're getting, it feels like we're getting this weird sort of a backlash, almost, of where their plan for this big drop isn't necessarily going, but we're starting to see something different instead. Instead of, a company going ahead and working on, organizing a release and saying, we want these people streaming it, we want those people doing that, we're starting to see an organic growth of the community outside of its own bounds. We're seeing people outside of the community who just know about the game from PAX South, any of the PAXs last year, Gamescom, who are saying, oh, hey, look, I can finally stream this game. I haven't really been paying attention to it, but I saw the announcement, so let me go ahead and stream it. So we're starting to see that instead, which, may not be what I personally wanted to see, because obviously, with us having a stake in the community as we've had, and us having a stake in the future of this game, I would have liked to see this big explosion of, boom, 5,000 people watching the game right now. But I
Probably
like the
won't
fact,
happen.
but probably won't happen yet. Might happen, but I like to see the fact that what is happening is an organic growth, and that's really good.
I think the other thing is, this is going to be, like, now that it's all out in the open and everything is public and publicly talked about, I think it's going to finally start getting the game to a point where it's kind of a, like, Sunlight sanitizes all, brings out all the flaws. And,
Maybe.
like, there's going to be things where, like, if the game has issues, like, there's going to be public streamers and they're going to have to reckon with it.
Oh yeah,
And it's going to be less of a, like, we're off in the corner with our group of people
Who like
that,
us,
like,
yeah.
that like us, and
Us
have been
sitting
in
at the cool
community for a
table.
while and are invested in seeing the game succeed. But if you have random streamers coming in from other games and they're like, well, this fucking sucks, like, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Like, then you have
have
to
to
accept that, like,
reconcile
there are problems. Like, not to say that I think it's necessarily a problem, because, like, the community isn't necessarily the nicest group of people or the most, like, sycophantic group of people in general. But, like, I think we are going to, like,
That's a word.
it helps to have people coming in from, like, outside of the community who haven't seen where the games come from, who don't know, who don't have the sort of thing where it's like, we need like all of this. There aren't people that are longing for like the good old days of like last summer when we had XYZ features and like what
or
oh
logging
man,
in
I don't
because
like
they,
this.
you know,
I don't
they've
like
been
this
here for a
new
while.
change.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like it is what it is. Like now people are coming in and they're seeing it for exactly where it is right now, and to give that.
They're not being blinded by the past. They are expecting something different because of their past expectations. No, they're coming in this with no expectations and are making assessments of what they're seeing based off of what they're actually playing, rather than any preconceived notions of what was or what we want.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So that being the case, I will agree that we're probably going to see some people come in and say, well, that's kind of shitty. Like, why is this a thing? And then Motiga is going to have to deal with that because now they're getting this third party, this new group of people who, like many people aren't Motiga fanboys and don't really care, that they have relationships with people in the community. They don't care, who these people are necessarily. They care about wanting a good game. And so they're going to have to finally deal with having a good game for an objective standpoint. Not that they haven't been doing that already, but it's going to be interesting and nice, I think, to finally get that fresh opinion out in the field.
Yeah, I'm hoping that when people actually do start sharing, like when the big people do actually come in and there's lots of people actually watching, like, we'll have a game that shows. Because right now I'm not entirely too sure that everything's exactly the way that we want it. But, it's stuff that... No, it's stuff that it's stuff that can be fixed slowly over time, and I'm hoping that people actually give their feedback, because that's something that I've also noticed on the forums, for specifically the Gigantic forums. I feel like there's not a lot of feedback on these changes and these patch notes for specific heroes or for specific mechanics. Like a big change that I saw that we didn't go over 2 weeks ago was that the Guardians move
moving up and into the map.
Yeah, they move up and like they'll defend a specific part of the map, like if they're at half power, then they'll start their charge later.
When you think about it, and this actually leads us lovely into our next set of topics. At first when you think about that sort of a big change, to how the game, moves and plays, you think, oh wow, now I can't attack that large section of map. What's this? What's that deal? Because there's the Guardian there. But nowadays, as I'm playing and as I'm getting into these games where that's happening for both Guardians around the same time, at the same point in the game, in the cycle of the pushes, I almost don't notice it. I almost don't really care that it's happening, but that may be more indicative of the fact that it's a solo queue game. It's a solo queue circumstance, and realistically, I'm not caring about the strategic implications of the Guardian moving up.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a big thing, but for someone that's not used to the game, and let's be honest, there's going to be a ton of people that are coming in, they're going to be like, oh, what is this? Like, when they notice that there's this huge creature that they can't hurt it, like it's just there, and they can't actually hurt it.
They've gotten to the also one big bonus this week that came out with the patch notes was that the power gems in the hands of the Guardians finally have health bars. So at first you're like, oh, okay, I guess that's nice. Now I know how much it takes to kill those power gems. But let's look at it from this point. You're a new player, and you see this giant Guardian just standing here that you can attack, and you see health bars. Your first obvious thing to do is kill the health bars, or try to kill the health bars. But then you notice killing those don't necessarily kill the creature. So now it's an organic way of noting to the newer players that, no, you can't kill them when they're rampaging or when they're pushing or whatever. No, you can't hurt them until they're weakened. And that third health bar pops up. So it is an organic and indirect way of teaching people that, yes, these are indestructible creatures.
Yeah. Is that your word of the day, Shmoo? Organic?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think just the game right now.
Letter O.
The game right now has just a general problem with not having a particularly good UI or a UI that explains what's going on, and
tutorial that explains what's going on.
Well, I mean the tutorial too, but I think this is not something that I. Go ahead.
I just want to ask: have either of you two actually played the new tutorial since the recent patch?
There's a new tutorial.
Because it's actually pretty good now.
No,
I haven't played the new tutorial, and honestly, I don't think this is a problem. Like, I mean, obviously, sorry. I don't think this is a major problem with the game because like things like changing the UI, like adding a better tutorial, that kind of stuff. That's the stuff that's easy to do later, right?
Oh.
Like explaining the game to new players is not an easy thing to do, but it is an easier thing to add in later because that's like put 3 people in a room somewhere, and they build a tutorial map and some extra voiceovers and some better UX, and like that's something that can be done asynchronously from like balance changes and like making the maps not suck and like that kind of stuff.
But that's kind of the point that I was trying to make. Like like they can see that this creature, and it has health bars, and you notice that you're not doing anything to it, but you're not told. Like, I mean, you shouldn't be handheld through the entire experience of playing a new game. But, these new people are coming in, and they don't know what's going on, because there's a lot that happens really quickly, and even though there's not a lot of depth within the game after you get a basic mechanic, like, people are getting a little overwhelmed, and they're getting intimidated, and I feel like... that's a problem.
And there are even people that are playing the tutorials and getting overwhelmed and intimidated. There are a lot of people that on the Reddit who are saying that this game is very difficult. It's very hard for them to get into, and they feel like the tutorial has a really high barrier to entry because of just how difficult it in and of itself is. And while, I don't like feeling elitist in that sense, I don't feel as though there are a lot of players who, who've been with the game or even have played games similar who are getting that sense. And I do know that there are a lot of people in the community up to this point who felt that the tutorial was a little weak. So maybe, this response from newer players is almost a backlash of that sort of feedback from previous on, where it said, "Oh yeah, no, the tutorial's pointless. It doesn't teach you anything good."
But
that's
why they changed it, though. It's actually pretty good, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'll have to try it and have to take it out. I didn't know that it had changed, but that's neither here nor there. I think realistically, this kind of goes back into what we were saying before, with the addition to the tutorial and with the addition to a lot of these new things, is going to be much, what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to be a little bit more visible with the new players that are coming in. All these things are going to be much more visible with the new players, and this is exactly what we need to be focusing, I think, most of our attention on at this point, is how we're going to help facilitate newer players into the community. And it doesn't have to be big things. I think possibly the new Tutorial 2.0 will be a great first step. The UI changes, though, I think is going to be the big thing that's going to help a lot of people, both new and old, be better facilitated into the game. And we've seen some updates to that. We talked about them a little bit last week, with being able to see the people on both teams all at the same time, their portraits, and seeing when they're alive and when they're dead. At the very least, we see that, which does help. Things where, some updates are definitely, wanted, asked for, demanded for, would be in the actual Clash UI, saying, hey, this push happened. Those dots at the top of the screen actually mean something.
Yeah.
And right now we don't actually know what that is. And just a quick UI update saying, okay, this happened here, this is what this means, just to have a label on those and say what they are is all we really need for people to figure it out. Because right now they're just dots at the top of the screen that don't mean anything.
That are
and it's the
different
same
colors.
thing with the information underneath them, like how many kills each team has gotten this push.
Yeah.
No one knows what that means except for the people who've been here and asked devs what that means.
Yes.
Like, that's the thing, is like, I remember a year ago those things when me and Wolfie had first gotten in the game. We're like, what are those? And there are people that are like,
what are those?
What are those? Oh,
I
boy.
hate both of you. It was like, hey, what are those
Internet
things
high
up
five.
there? Oh dear. It's like, what are those things up there? And there were other people who have been there for a couple months. Like, I don't know, man. Hey, Evan. Hey. What are those things? He's like,
Well, that was before Evan, too.
That was before Evan. So, hey, random dev number 3, Carter, I think was the guy. That was
it was all retract.
Yeah, it was retract for a while. Yeah. It's like, hey, man, what's that? And he's like, oh, well, that's how many kills your team has gotten per push. It changes and resets every push. It's like,
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think, we've been promised a UI update for a really long time. Like, I was, personally promised a UI update at PAX Prime, and, like,
hey, they never told
we'll
you when
see
that was
6 months later if that happens.
You never know.
But like,
but
I
to be
think that's
fair, there
gonna
are other
come,
things,
and
yeah,
that'll
that
be
have taken precedence. So
Yep.
there's that. But
There's one more thing in this little there's one more thing in the general patch I wanted to go over.
all right,
Well, actually, there's a few more things, but one more thing before the balance concerns.
Right.
I wanted to say that the summons, their shield value when they're not being disrupted, they have a shield that deflects everything, and then when
Yeah.
you engage in them, they have a shield that absorbs damage. Then you break it, then you do regular damage. That shield value is actually it's actually in alignment with the amount of wounds your guardian has. So if your guardian has less health, that shield is less.
That is like, I think that remains my continuous gripe with Gigantic is like there are so many things that are just like, you did what? Like I feel like once a month there's some mechanic that comes out that I'm like, that's a thing.
Yeah, it's
no,
there.
no. The only thing that's coming to mind is, but why? Why
I
though?
don't know.
But why?
Yeah,
Like,
I'm not sure either.
why?
And then I
Let's
also
make
wanna
it
say-
easier to kill your creatures when
Yeah.
your guardian is about to be wounded, because that's
Yeah.
something we want you to have. Thank you. Let's make it easier to snowball against people in a game that is already
Well-
particularly pup stompy. Thanks, guys. Appreciate
And,
that.
and,
Oh,
and
boy.
balance changes are going to happen. Like, I don't think that's like a huge.
I
I
thought
don't
this
know.
was a good idea.
Dude, that phrase consistently.
And then
Why?
And then one more thing, I want to go over the Sanctum Falls, the Clash creature positions,
Okay.
Oh yeah, that
Where-
keeps changing.
where the one in what I personally call ruins, but everyone else calls it like back or something, where it's that little
Tower, the
area.
ruined tower.
No. The tower is what I call tower and what everyone calls ruins. What I call ruins is what everyone calls back. So it's weird.
Oh, it's the bell area.
But yeah, it's the bell area that moves all the way, and it's right below stage where there's the stairs, and then there's that high point, that stage.
Oh yeah.
That's what I call that point. Like, that one stayed the same, and then the ruins, or tower, I call it, stays the same. And then the buckets moved over to the middle between the two tunnels. It's like...
Wolf, you're not allowed to name things anymore.
Actually, this was Team 84 namings. Not even lying. These are
Bucket.
Team 84. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Names for
little,
things.
the little lower ledge where
Where there's
deeper,
Clash area, and then there's the bridge, and on both sides of the bridge down,
There's little
those are called
drop
buckets.
downs, the buckets.
They are buckets.
That's what everyone calls it. Like that's the competitive term for it. Like there's
yeah.
a map and everything. Like it's
I
it's
can
crazy.
give you
boy.
that map, actually.
But the bucket moved over to the middle,
I can't
and
give you
like
that map. Never mind.
it's like I feel like a lot of people like really need to rethink about what they're actually summoning, like baby versus adult. Like
Well, it keeps changing. Like
Yeah.
last time I
Well-
played, because you only end up on Mistforge like 50% of the time. Like I got out on Mistforge, I'm like, oh wait, what the hey? Like everything moved to a different place. Like what's
There
going
are
on?
walls that don't even have textures. I love those, by the way. The non-textured walls. Those need to be
Yeah.
finalized. That needs
I
to be a
love
thing.
those. I love
Like-
the new lighting in Sanctum Falls, actually.
But,
Yeah,
but
the new
doesn't your
lighting
lighting
effects.
have to be rebuilt?
Maybe.
No.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Possibly.
But I like
We're
that,
so off topic.
I like that the stairways that go up into Clash, or what is it called now? Falls? No. Whatever. Like I like that it's a lot brighter, and I'm just like, oh, this is so much nicer. I can
I
see
can
everything.
see what's going on, yeah. Other major updates, though, that have kind of gone into this is, obviously, we finally now have the ability to use the store. We'll get to that. Finally, we are able to use the store now. Last couple of weeks, we haven't been able to do that. They've recently decided to finally put that in. We have the free week rotation. Right now, they have it's 6 heroes every week is what is free. They go to a week-to-week basis. 6 heroes, I'm fine with that because that's, enough
Yeah,
to
it's
try
it's a
and...
week-to-week base that changes on Thursday.
Well, that's when it changed
Just in
this
time
week.
for the weekend.
Yeah,
like
that's...
I don't mind that. That seems like a completely
Yeah.
reasonable.
I
time
just
to
feel like
roll.
everything else that I've ever played, like big things happen
Sunday
on Tuesdays
or Tuesday.
Tuesday
yeah.
because Blizzard patch day.
Yeah. But here's my
Everyone's
thing with it.
standardized on Blizzard patch day. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
Here's
not
my
even
thing
kidding.
with it is you know, obviously the free week hero rotation is going to be around for a while. It's obviously going to be 6 for a while until we get, you know, more than 16 heroes. But I feel like they kind of back themselves into an unfortunate corner, because 6 heroes does not, you know, allow for a lot of, you know, complexity when it comes to what hero teams you're probably going to be helping people have. Because this week it's Wu, Taito, Sven, Margrave, Charnok, and Griselma. And that's an okay team.
There's like
you only have
no
one
range on
You have
that.
one
Yeah.
range there, and it's Charnok. Nothing against Charnok. He's a great ranged hero.
I don't know what you're talking about.
There-
Griselma is the best shooter in the game.
I'm ready to just uninstall Gigantic right now because of Griselma. I'm not gonna lie. We can actually get into that a little
No,
bit.
she got turned down, but we'll talk about that later.
Turned down for what?
Tuned down, not turned down. Thank you.
So
I mean,
so Perry's leaving, right? Like,
Perry's gone.
okay, cool.
No, that's
I
actually like that song. I did a long time
Perry's
ago.
gone. I'm sorry, he's gone.
Anyway,
Bye, guys.
talents in the shop
There
have
you go.
been refunded, and now every single hero has all of their talents open, whether if it's specific hero talent or path talent. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that that'll stay the same. But I'm not
I think
entirely
that's
sure.
where it should be, personally.
Yeah.
I think that you should be able to have all the talents straight out from the beginning, no problem. I think the talents themselves are too inborn into the generic system, too entrenched into what makes every hero who they are, to where if you got rid of some of them, it would completely imbalance the game, or you would be getting rid of the ones that nobody uses anyway and wouldn't make any difference to the game.
Yeah,
So you either make the
that's
game pretty
fair
much
enough.
pay/grind to win, or you do absolutely nothing different at all. I think if they're going to try and add system, because obviously we know where they're trying to go with this. They're trying to make a Runes of Mastery style system where things
But
that
that's
you
literally
grind
the
for-
one part of League everyone fucking hates.
Well,
Like,
the,
it's
the
like they
idea
look
of
at
it though
League
is
of
sound.
Legends.
The
It's like
idea
they
of it
look at
sound
League and
though.
like, oh.
You know,
No, it's not. It's a
Yeah,
horrible idea.
No, the idea of it is that you would play the game to get bonuses to help you in the game. The idea
That's
is
an awful
necessarily
idea.
No, it's not too horrible of an idea because it creates more of
No,
an incentive
okay,
for you to want
so-
to play the game. I have no problem with that. I think
I don't
that
know.
no, you shouldn't necessarily have to grind to be able to do good things in the game.
I'm-
But when we actually have a stable account saving, you know, your actual account settings being saved week to week rather than, oh, by the way, we're getting rid of all the stuff and you have to regrind up to whatever level. You know, until we
Before-
finally have that.
Before
you know,
Perry goes off and rants,
Okay.
I'm gonna say that I'm in the very middle of this, like I usually am for some reason, because it's always Shmoo and Perry, and then I'm just here.
Yeah,
But I'm
let's,
gonna
I guess,
say
fix
that
then.
I understand the reasoning that Perry said that it's a bad idea, because it's like if you don't have the talents that are actually good, then you're probably gonna lose, and then that just kind of like it's kind of demeaning. It's just like, oh, or not demeaning. It's kind of disheartening, and it's like,
Yep.
oh man, well, God, I lost that because I'm not as good. Or it's not. It becomes. It doesn't stay as, oh, I lost that because I'm not as good. It's, oh, I lost that because I don't have this, and I need to play more so I can have this. So it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, all right, well, we can play more, but it shouldn't be something that you're forced to do. But at
Yeah.
the same time, I want to say that if there is this kind of progression where you unlock more things by playing more, that's when they should implement a better matchmaking system so that people that don't have these extra things are actually being matched with other players that don't have
So-
these bonus things.
The major gripe is obviously the major gripe we've had for a while, which is the matchmaking system sucks right now.
So, okay, just to do short ranty time. My gripe with having talents be unlockable is my same gripe with having creatures be an unlock, which is you are limiting people's ability to understand how the game is played.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
like,
don't-
I actually hold up like League of Legends. I actually think The runes and mastery system, or rather the rune system in League of Legends, I would actually argue is better than what Gigantic is doing. In the sense that the way the rune system in League of Legends works is it's pure just like have some stats, right? Like it's literally runes are just like have plus 50 mana or plus 50 attack damage.
Yeah.
Where literally like it's a you are better for having them. But the thing with Gigantic is like there are heroes that like that are necessarily because the people at Motig are not going to be infallible in terms of their balance.
Yeah.
You are going to have heroes that are going to have like a level 3 talent that they have to have in order to be a viable build. Or have a level 3 talent that drastically changes how you play that hero. And so without like if you assume that Motiga isn't like an almighty god of balance and that the entire game is going to be balanced at all times, both the creatures and the talents, like, you are going to be like, I'm going to pick up Wu, and then you start playing him, and it's like, oh, I don't have that level 3 talent unlocked. So, fuck me. I guess I'm just going to be shit at Wu, and I'm not getting the experience I should. Like, I don't get to experience Wu the way people who enjoy playing Wu play Wu.
Yep.
Whereas, like, something like League, like, I can go play, like, Mordekaiser, and like I don't have the rune page for playing Mordekaiser professionally, but like Mordekaiser still plays like Mordekaiser.
Yeah.
Like I feel like this like it fundamentally makes the game less fun, and I like this is a problem I had with Heroes of the Storm because Heroes of the Storm locks your second ult behind getting to a certain level with the character, and there's some characters where their first ult is the one you want, and there's some characters where their second ult is the one that's good. Yeah. And for the characters where the second ult is the one that's good, you like spend the first 6 levels like I hear this character is fun, but I like you get to level 6 and it's like, oh, that's why people play this character. Like this is why this character is a professional pick as opposed to a shithole.
Yeah.
I going back to the creature thing, I don't mind that. I wouldn't mind if all the additional creatures, like there's 2 versions of every creature at the moment. I don't mind if that second version is something that you have to pay to, or not pay, you have to grind to unlock with.
Yeah, I think the creatures is the way.
Or pay. It'll also be pay. Like I can guarantee you.
But I don't think it should be. Though.
I don't like that the dragon is. I don't like that the Drake is locked until you get the base Fire Drake. I don't even have the base Fire Drake. I bought the Storm Drake because it's ultimately better, and everyone knows that. But you know, like. I feel like everyone should have just the standard creatures of the 4 creatures that we have right now, and then whatever 5th or whatever 6th that we may get in the future. It's just like that standard creature needs to be there.
Well, and that's partially because it lets you summon a small of it. Like that's the really important thing.
Yeah,
is like, yeah, maybe you can't upgrade it to a good large. Like maybe you don't have the good large. Like I'm slightly more okay with the creatures just because, like in general, the weight and so much of this varies based on the balance of the game. The way the game's balanced right now, like not every you're not rarely going to run out of your creature summons. So you can rely on like one guy having your Storm Drake and no one else has it, and you'll probably be fine on most maps. But like it just in general, like I feel like you should have the ability to at least dip into each category.
Yeah.
Shmoo, was that before Nor's time? Before, like, you could pick every single creature at once and then have a set of 5 creatures?
Yeah.
That was before my time, yeah.
Okay, that was... I remember that.
You could choose 5 creatures because you didn't... The way it worked before was that the young and adult creatures were not connected. They were separate.
Yeah, were separated.
So you had the choice between summoning a young creature or an adult creature. The difference, though, was the amount of time you had to stand straight still to actually summon them. You couldn't move, you couldn't jump, and you had to perpetually be pushing your button. Yeah, that was it. But that, you know, obviously the more you have your adult creatures, the longer it's going to take for you to be able to have those adult creatures, and the longer you are infinitely more susceptible to everything. So that was obviously the choice that they connected them. But yeah, you could have 5 creatures on your summons list, and you'd walk up to the point, and then as soon as you sat there, click, hold, 10 seconds later, boom, you have a creature there.
Yeah.
You didn't have to wait for
And
it
it
to
was
summon more. Than
it was
that either.
funny because you could have a whole list of babies, but you couldn't be able to summon adults, or you could have a whole list of adults, you couldn't summon any babies.
Yeah, because
Or,
you had
like,
to have a
you could
baby
have-
down on a point.
you could
before
have a
could
little
get it to
Cerb
go.
and then like a little Cyclops, but you didn't necessarily have a big or a big Cerberus, but you could have a big Cyclops. It was weird.
Yeah,
but
you
I
had
Which
think
is
to
it
have-
was-
totally fine, honestly. Like, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, well, and it created some problems, not the least of which was the fact that you just had to get Fire Drakes on every point and you'd win the game because, they
Well,
did
but
ridiculous
that's a
amounts
different
of...
issue.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was back in the days when Fire Drake fireballs could shoot through the map, so, there's
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Infinite range fireballs shooting through the map, it's always fun.
That was my favorite bug of all
That was the
time.
best bug. But, those were issues back then. And honestly, I like the new system compared to the old system, though, because it does allow for more strategic thought process when it comes to which creatures you're going to have on your team. Who has what creatures, who's
And
going to be the
why.
one summoning, and why,
Yeah.
who's going to be summoning more often than not. Okay, that person's going to want to have the summons that are going to be replaced often enough. So let's say Vidasi. Vidasi doesn't generally use her focus in fight all that often.
Yeah.
I mean, she will, but not all that often. She's going to be stacking a lot of it with the healing, granting focus. So let's have her have Bloomer. And I guess, let's have her have Yeti as well. So that way she can have a tier 3 because she's going to get to a tier 3. But for people like Gnosis, who is going to be using his focus literally every time he gets into a fight, let's not give him something super important that needs to be resummoned all the time.
Yeah.
Let's give him something else. Let's
And
give
they-
him a Fire
And
Drake.
that could also be seen with recent changes that they've made too, where instead of back then you could have a set of 5 creatures, you could summon all of them indefinitely.
Yeah.
And now we have a limitation on what creatures. All adults only have 1 summon, all babies only have 2 summons. So if it dies,
That's a
that
much
just-
bigger deal.
that just
yeah.
puts a big,
Which is why you start
a
seeing
big
so many
deal on
people
it.
doing these pushes into summoning creatures now, where you want to kill that creature. You want to kill it before it summons because A,
Yeah.
it's infinitely easier to kill it before it summons, and B, regardless of the fact they don't have that summon anymore. That's one
Yeah.
person who doesn't have an adult bloomer on their team anymore or something,
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Not so much right now because
Well,
almost
especially
everybody
on
on their
solo
team has a bloomer. But yeah, like you're saying, especially on solo queue, because not everybody knows to summon or upgrade all the time, and they're not going to be doing that
Well,
all the
and
time.
coordination is just lower.
Yep, is much lower. So, you could have 2 people defending that, and then you and 3 of your buddies on your team are just hanging around. Not even if you're queuing up, just you tend to be hanging around with the same people in the match, and they notice you're going over there, and you ping it hard. Okay, let's go kill that, summoning creature. They only have 2 people there. We have 4 now, and they're not coordinating well enough to get there before we destroy it. So
Yeah.
that's the sort of thing. I mean, you're pretty much screwed if one of the 2 people that are there is Griselma, but, whatever.
That's a different
balance changes, yay!
Yeah, into balance changes for the last 9 minutes. What happened to Griselma?
Okay, so Griselma, on the first patch into Beta 2.0, you got bug fixes where AI is a lot more responsive with a particular trait, a particular talent in her LMB called Mark of the Master.
Right.
So when she hits a target, her hands prioritize that target, and when her hands hit that target, it slows them.
Right.
Then, when they're slowed, there's a further upgrade into that same tree that allows her to get bonus armor and get health whenever she hits the enemy target.
Okay.
Now, with the fact that there's more responsive AI, and when Griselma was last changed before, when you summon, there's the cone-shaped picture. When I don't know if you've played Griselma, but there's a cone shape on the summon, and it says, that's the area where it's supposed to fire.
Well, and the thing
Well,
is,
they said-
when she's summoning those, if you're on her team, you can see those cones.
Yeah, but the thing is, they, I guess, more or less said screw that, and now the hands are able to do 360 turning again, like when she was released the first time. So they're basically, it doesn't matter which way you face them, and
Which I like.
But yeah, I don't mind that. It's just the fact that now there's a whole ton of ways with new new upgrades. There's a whole huge amount of ways to summon hands. On Q, you double tap it, you summon a hand that's the furthest hand away if you already have one summoned. You know, R and B all obviously summons a hand because that's the ability. If
Yeah.
you use your E, you can summon a hand after you go in the hole, and then the hole now heals Griselma for 150 a second, and she can stay in it for 5 seconds. Like, that's
Which-
crazy for someone
yeah.
who's super squishy.
Yeah.
Though to be fair, it doesn't like your hidey hole doesn't really save you most of the time.
Well, it can now because exit strategy upgrade should no longer result in Griselma falling through the world. That's
Yeah.
a lovely bug fix right there.
And even with that, the fact that it lasts longer now, that gives time for your team to be like, oh, Griselma's in trouble. I need to actually go in and do something about it. And then
Yeah.
also with recent changes to how fast her focus gains, because the focus gain, I'm sure you both know this, but the focus gain is based on how much damage you accumulate based on how fast you, or in accordance to how fast you do it. So with how fast Griselma's LMB beam now ticks, it's insane how fast she can gain a focus or 2 focus charges.
Right.
Like, it's ridiculous.
Right.
And once you're in the hidey hole and you're actually in danger, you can just pop out, lay down the focus because it instantly charges, and then it stuns them and then bashes them further away, which is also something that got changed recently. The first hit of the skill of her focus will now push enemies into the air instead of stunning them, so it's not triggered as a launch, so you're still able to do abilities and sort of move, but you're in the air.
Yeah.
And then the second hit will now launch away. The trap...
Amusingly, that makes it so that you don't actually do damage to them.
Yeah.
Because evidently the hurt box for her ult damage is on the ground, so it knocks people into the air and then hits below them,
Yep.
which is silly.
And then
Nice.
the required time to arm the trap has been increased to 1 second, so it can't be like instantly just like lay down the trap instantly stunned. And then the
Yeah.
overall trap radius was reduced as well. So it was kind of okay, but there's still points where Griselma is just super strong because you can still gain focus really quickly, and just the base damage
Well,
of
we
the
saw that
hands
last
is
night.
insanity.
Yeah, we saw that last night where we're starting to have that problem again where Griselma's hands are doing just stupid amounts of damage. And it's not so much of a huge problem on Sanctum Falls because, you know, it's a much wider area for Sanctum Falls, so it's harder for
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
to get set up and entrenched into one area, which is obviously the big counter to Griselma is forcing her to have to re-entrench in multiple areas. But in Canyon, she becomes the broken hero. You want to win games, play Griselma. Because you could very easily, in every single fight, have your ultimate. Boom, one fight, because your team is not being attacked anymore.
Not even just have your ultimate, but the fact that it's so narrow and that whole middle area is so open at
Yeah.
points of time, like you could put hands literally anywhere, and they don't even have to be near each other. And
They
I
could just still do
guarantee you,
stuff, yeah.
at least 2 of them are hitting somebody.
Exactly.
Like,
And
it's
you can also,
insane.
with, you know, being able to move your hands around and be able to spawn a hand by using E, you can quickly swap positions you are at for one fight on the fly, so long as you've been paying attention to what your cooldowns are.
Yeah.
And so you
Yeah.
could very easily just turn the tide of a fight just by hitting E and Q.
And granted, there is a punishment if you kill the hands. You know, like that cooldown is really huge.
Yeah.
But
Well, and there's still
with
the
how-
problem with that though is that
yeah.
the hands are actually do have health. They're not super squishy. They're squishy enough, but it still could take you, you know, 3 Charnock left mouse buttons to actually kill one of those things, you know, 3 or 4, and that's a lot of damage that you're doing. You're talking about 250 a tick with Charnock
Yeah,
left
that's
mouse
that's
buttons.
a lot of time you're focusing
So,
on getting
yeah.
that instead of
You're
enemy
talking
heroes.
1,000 health on these things. You know,
At
that's a lot of time
least.
you're focusing on these things. So, you know, instead of on heroes, yes, she is going to be getting a little bit of a slap on the wrist for letting one of her hands die, but like that, you're getting a slap on the wrist for even trying to do that in the first place. Like, why are you killing her hands? You're getting killed by the enemy team.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
realistically, I don't mind the hands doing a lot of damage. I have no hands whatsoever, but you know, or sorry, I have no problem with hands whatsoever. I don't have hands. What are you talking about? I have no problems with hands whatsoever. It's just that killing them takes too long. Make it easier to kill them. And
Yeah.
Air Force making a great point here. No experience for hands. They can also be healed and replaced relatively quickly, and she can reposition without any real commitment. It's just like, that's just the thing. Is like that's how that works. Is like,
Yep. And
yeah,
we're-
you don't
we're-
get
we're
experience
not
for
even-
it. They can be healed and replaced easily. Punish her for letting them be killed. Yes, there is one of those. Not a huge one, but enough.
Yep, and
You
we're
know-
not even accounting for the fact that the hands can have an aura that gives 10% bonus damage and 10 armor for anyone that's around them, and then they take all debuffs from allies and heal that ally for like 300, 350, I think.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's
Yeah.
it's really good.
I mean, I don't know. I have a long-running rant about Griselda and Amani, and I consider both of them to just be somewhat poorly designed heroes in the sense that, like, both
they
of
either are
them
broken or worthless.
both of them would be really good if there was only one map, because you could balance them around distances.
one map, yeah.
And yeah, you could balance them around the one map. Either of them, like both of them, are either going to be bad, overpowered, or distort the way
Well,
map design must work.
here's
And
the
Amani is
thing.
distorting map design, and Griselda oscillates between being the best goddamn hero in the game and utter shit.
Yeah,
Well, and here's the thing with Amani even is like Imani on Canyon versus Imani on Sanctum Falls has it's Ghost Reef, not Canyon. What am I doing? Imani on Ghost Reef and Imani on Sanctum Falls are two different Imanis. If you want to go for the
yeah.
best builds, you know, on Ghost Reef, you want to build what we lovingly describe as melee Imani. It's all about the left mouse button. It's all about that damage. You can go ahead and build for right mouse button upgrades and whatnot, but you're better off going for melee Imani. On Sanctum Falls, you don't have the ability to utilize that to the same effectiveness, so you go right mouse button one.
in certain situations.
In
you
certain
do,
situations,
but
but
that's just me.
it's yeah, it's very much dependent on the game you're playing against. 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to be more useful if you go right mouse button on Sanctum Falls, but that is neither here nor there.
Yeah.
So I think Imani is a good exception to that idea of, you know, a poorly designed hero changing the way map design
Yeah.
should work. It's so much more that map designs are changing the way this poorly designed hero builds, which I'm fine with.
Well, I mean, you say that, and yet, like, almost every single map change on both Canyon and Mistforge can be attributed to Amani.
Yeah, I guess.
Like, literally, there has been
I
no
guess.
other... Like, there's been some other stuff that they've messed with.
Never mind
that
the
seemed
fact
like
that
it's
Canyon's
neutral.
original form, you know, was pretty poorly designed to begin with.
But
Like
yeah,
the
like,
original
literally,
Canyon 1.0.
literally every map, the only I can almost promise you, the only character they care about balancing the map around is
designs?
Amani.
Amani definitely is up there. I'd say Griselma is another choice, though, obviously. For
I mean,
the same
Griselma's another
reasons.
choice, but they've already shown that they don't give a flying fuck about Griselma because Persistent World is literally the only person that plays her.
Persistent World, and when he used to play him, when he used to play at all.
Like, Amani,
Natelme
like, there's
plays
a
him.
ton of people that play Amani and have strong opinions about Amani, and, like,
Yeah.
Motiga listens to the Amani fan base. Griselma, they don't give a flying fuck, it seems.
There's
Like,
just no
and I
one-
don't think
yeah.
they should. Honestly, I don't think they should give a shit about either fan base. But, like, you know, I think it's I think both of those heroes should be, like, redesigned from the ground up. But
Right.
I don't mind Amani, but Griselma is just in a weird place. Ashling's in a weird place. I could talk about Ashling, but what I really want to do before we end is I want to talk about Charnock. There are a lot of people that are saying that Charnock is currently way too strong.
I can feel it. I can dig it.
I think a lot of it has to do with something that didn't seem like it would be a huge issue, but I feel like it has become a big issue. It was in the 2.0 patch notes. It says direct hits with Heatwave, which is his LMB, if anyone doesn't know that. The direct hit and the explosion AoE from Heatwave will deal roughly the same amount of damage. So that means that if you have that upgrade that does 3 charge and then a bigger area of effect, I think that's what the upgrade is, you're roughly doing the same amount of damage to anyone in that little bit of area, regardless of if you actually hit them with the fireball or not. Like, that's
Which
a little...
is like 300 to 400 damage.
Yeah, that's a little bit crazy. And then you have to think about the Q upgrade, which allows you to throw instant full charge fireballs down. Like,
It's sort of...
you do...
It's weird. The
You
thing
do
is
one,
that,
you
yes,
Q,
you can
and then
do
you
all
throw
those.
like 3 more.
It's not even just those changes to the updates. Like, yes, that's a big deal, but he feels like he's just gotten more damage in the long run. You know, with the changes to his right mouse button, where they've been swapped around, we're getting the the right mouse button damage increases, channeling Dragon's Breath longer and increasing damage as you hit enemies. You know, those upgrades are being much more useful. The upgrades for your left mouse button, where when you hit with left mouse button on burning heroes, you do full damage charges. That's what it is. No matter how much you charge, you're always doing full damage on it if you're hitting a burning target. And you can put burning with every single one of your abilities.
Yeah.
Your left mouse button, if you do a tier 2 charge, actually applies a burning. Your Q, if you get the Q and then dash down Q upgrade, will apply burning. Right mouse button, if you get the level 5 talent upgrade, will apply burning. E always applies burning, regardless of whether you upgrade it or not.
Focus always applies burning, too.
Exactly. So now you can be doing, without having to charge up, without having to worry about getting a tier 3 charge, you can apply 500 damage with 2 auto attacks, whether or not you hit directly with the fireball or not.
Yeah. And then
So-
that's on probably multiple people, too.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing with this as well. People using the QQ upgrade more often now is bringing Charnok back to his original form. I'm remembering back to the days when Sion first started playing the game, and he used to play Charnok as a brawler.
Yeah,
You know, sit in the
dude,
center
Flamethrower
of the
Charnok
battle
was
and just flamethrower
totally
Charnok. Because it was incredibly good. And the Q, land down Q damage is significant. It's not anything to laugh at. Like, the landing Q damage is another, like, 260 damage. You know, 260, 300 damage on just landing the Q on top of somebody. You're also applying burning with that. Now you're also hitting the right mouse button to do another 800 or so damage over the time to multiple enemies and applying more burning. Now you can hit with your left mouse buttons, which are doing 260 per hit, regardless of whether or not you're hitting them in the center or not. You know, yeah, he does a lot of damage, and Pure Adrenaline is right. His skill floor was lowered with all of these things.
Yeah.
So it makes him feel like he's stronger. Here's the thing, though. His survivability has not been touched at all. He's still every bit as squishy as he was before. And that was one of the major reasons why people stopped playing him as a brawler, because they got rid of his health and armor. He used to be a lot more tanky.
He used to have a lot more health and armor.
So
and then they
nowadays,
just threw it down.
Nowadays, I think the biggest problem with it is people are tending to ignore Charnok more than often than not, which allows for the brawler to come back into play. You know, and the one change to that is like, okay, yeah, if you focus him, you can get him down, but that means you just build Charnok differently and start from the beginning.
No, it's 406. There's so much more I want to talk about.
Yeah, we've gotten to an interesting point. It's 406. Yeah. There's still so much more to talk about, but we've got shows every week, so there's that. That's.
I
really
mean, we're running out of big news that they could drop on us on Friday at like 6 o'clock. So.
Yeah,
you know, presumably we'll start having more normal shows about
more
like actual
shows.
game as opposed to dear God, the state of the game and like that
exactly,
kind of stuff.
Right? And Salt Fests, we need more of those eventually. But as we have always said, we'd like to thank you guys so much for watching us. This has been a fun show, and hopefully, like we said, now we'll be able to get back into a more consistent form of what we talk about. There's always going to be new things, patch and balance wise, to talk about. I'm sure we could go another hour in that alone. Perry, I wish we could Pure Adrenaline, but Perry says he's got somewhere to be, so I mean, I could always just get rid of him, but I don't want to get rid of that was me.
Good work.
Anyway,
Great work there.
But as it stands, that is going to be it for us. We're going to be back next week at our same salty time with the same salty place. It's always. Let me think about what else. If you guys wanted to watch any of our previous shows, it's always up on our YouTube, youtube.com/GGUnleashed. Feel free to follow up on Twitter at GG_Unleashed, as well as at Schmooglydorf, at Wolfman, and at Noirbot for random updates from us as to what we're doing. Since I will be streaming more often lately, if you want to see me streaming, please feel free to come out. And Wolfman as well. Please feel free to follow there and say, hey, when we're actually going to be streaming. And, yeah, go ahead and check out all of our other lovely goodies, such as the Gigantic Cosplay Show going on every single Tuesday. They are doing some fantastic work on a Mozu cosplay. We do actually have a newest member of GGU popping in and working with us, and that is Mr. Jacob TM. If we know him as one of our lovely fan artists for Gigantic. He does incredible work, and right now he's been working on a Mozu comic, I believe.
Yeah,
so feel free to
it's a
go
Mozu
ahead.
comic based on the Clash course
Lore, right?
lore
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
So feel free to go ahead and check out his stuff in the future. That's supposed to be some new content coming through GG Unleashed, so there's
Yep.
that. Check out our website, GG Unleashed, as well, because there's a new forum there. There's a new hero builder there. It's a great resource. But that is going to be it for us, guys.
Wait, who are we going
Wait.
to host, Shmoo?
Oh, yes, we should host somebody. Who are we going to host? We are going to go ahead
So
and
many
host-
options.
There are so
There
many
are
options.
so many options.
But we are going to go ahead and host, actually, we're going to host Mr. Joe the Miz, actually, to try to break into a lovely new group of people.
Yeah,
Somebody
give it a
not
new guy.
within the actual group. So if you guys want to go ahead and check him out, feel free to do so. I don't know if I could do this. I might be able to do this. Host Joe the Miz. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Get that in there.
Yeah, but don't
I
hit
can
enter
do
yet.
that because I'm an editor. But yep, well, thank you guys so much for popping out, and as always, we will see you next time.